So I would like to welcome in aviation expert Phillip Mann to break this all down for us. Phillip, great to see you. Thank you for your time. From your perspective, what is the purpose of this hearing? Will anything actually come out of it?
Of course, it's up to the decision makers to decide if something comes from it. But I think the good point of this is to bring a lot of these longstanding issues to the forefront. The FAA has kind of been a victim of its own success in a lot of ways because it is so safe. And even tragedies like the crash in the Potomac recently, that was the first time that's happened in 16 years. So, to kind of echo back what he was saying, maybe it does take a tragedy to get people to start thinking about these ongoing issues that we've been able to kind of band-aid and patch together here and there and short fund here and push off there. And it's just bringing everything into the public eye all at one time.
And you have a great point because, we're certainly, as the media, we're not covering every time a plane lands safely, obviously. But right, when there is a tragedy like this video, what we saw there in the D.C. area. Phillip, I want to talk to you about what happened over the weekend. So the FAA is now investigating some false collision alerts that were sent to multiple planes as they were approaching Washington's Reagan National Airport Saturday, where we saw that fatal collision. How concerning is this? What was happening there? Why would that have been happening?
Well, it's largely it seems like it's probably something in like what we call a radio spectrum issue, where these various detection devices, they detect certain kinds of signals around them. They detect things around them. And if there's a situation locally in that area where there's an unusual amount of electronic noise, say, and it might trigger all of these alerts, because these alerts are equipment that is physically on the airplane. There is other related equipment to it that's on the ground. And I've seen things like this happen in the past where you had a piece of airspace that had some weird detection activity or some weird kind of radar activity or something. And it could be something that maybe somebody has an overpowered ham radio, or they had some kind of a radio test or some kind of just faulty transmission equipment. For example, like a television station, if they have a transmitter in the area and it's bleeding through because it's out of tune a little bit, that can cause things like this. Now, the FAA has a spectrum analysis team, and they go out to a site and they look with their equipment and they try to find out, is there any kind of weird radio things going on that could cause this interference? Now, if it's not ongoing, they may never be able to track down what the actual cause was, but they can certainly identify likely candidates from patterns in the data and stuff like that.
All right, so Phillip, explain exactly what this collision alert does. Is it basically letting pilots, the co-pilot, know that there is potentially another aircraft that is too close?
Yeah, it does a couple things. It does a couple things, actually. And talk just strictly about the most modern version of it. It lets people know if there's another aircraft that's too close to them, but then it also does an advisory, which basically tells the flight crew to pull up or dive, or it gives them a specific command. And this is one of those circumstances where when the equipment tells them to do that, they execute that response and tell air traffic about it later. They don't ask permission. If the equipment tells them that there's an alert and it gives them this advisory and tells them pull up, pull up, pull up, then they just pull up. They don't, and then they'll tell air traffic why they pulled up, but they'll tell that after fact, because it is intended to be an immediate, right now, do this right now so you don't hit something.
Right, and we're taking a look at that video, what happened at the incident in Midway not that long ago, where that pilot was able to pull up, thankfully, because we likely would have been talking about yet another tragedy. Phillip, how should lawmakers be addressing this shortage in air traffic controllers? What's causing it? What do you think the solution is to fixing it?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I mean, they need to have an honest discussion about the impacts, because a lot of this goes back to 1981 with the PATCO, the previous air traffic unions. They did a strike and walkout in 1981, and that resulted in a huge gap because a bunch of them got fired for an illegal strike. And the FAA has never really recovered from that. They've never got the staffing back to where it was. So I think they need to face that, yes, this is a long-running historic issue, but then they need to, I believe, consider that trying to fix it the same way they've tried to fix it for 30 years by incentivizing people with signing bonuses, giving people a little bit higher paychecks, stuff like that. That's just not going to fix it. What they need is a broader pathway in. For example, the enhanced collegiate training initiative that the FAA picked up that they started doing recently, and they've got a few colleges signed on to it. That is a pathway that gets students who are pursuing a degree into a pre-air traffic pipeline where they do some of the initial training, and then they kind of skip the FAA Academy bottleneck, because the FAA Academy is a brilliant school for what they train there, but they are limited. They only have so many facilities, they only have so many instructors, and expanding that is just not feasible in a lot of ways. But they need to look at broadening the pathway. But they do have to also make sure that they don't compromise standards.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.